Hello everyone, welcome back to GGN. This is part 3 for this news bulletin today, Thursday, September 6th, 2012. I'm Darko, thank you and welcome back. My website is ggnonline.com and on YouTube it's ddarko2012. Thank you to those people who have donated and helped me out. It's very much appreciated. Okay, so we left off here. Syrian Kurds demand more rights. I saw this article, I'm like, no way, right? Because I was just talking about this. And this is from 9/5. This just came out. So this really is just playing out like a script. So yeah, Assad's regime is severely weakened. Maybe that, like I said in the end of the last video, maybe that was the whole point. You know, they're going to leave Turkey hanging. And something I didn't have time to get to was this. The German Marshall Fund of the United States, strengthening transatlantic cooperation from August 24th, 2012. And in the summary over here, it basically says that it ends the debate as to whether Turkey's support for Syrian rebels is boomeranging in the form of greater separatist violence at home after protracted efforts to persuade Assad along the path of reform, which they've already decided to do in like 2014 or something like that, but they don't want that. They want to do it before. So it says here, because they don't want them to determine their own fate, Turkey is now firmly committed to regime change in Syria. Critics of Turkish policy, including the main opposition, Republican People's Party, say the Turkish approach has backfired, and some are calling for Turkey's foreign minister to resign. And lastly, if this continues, Turkey might feel compelled to attack Syria. Lots of risk. I'm moving right over here. Little return. Should the PKK violence further escalate, public pressure will mount on the government to retaliate. Trapped by its own rhetoric, Turkey, talking about terrorist state, right? Turkey might feel compelled to attack Syria, which they're doing, most likely by carrying out airstrikes against regime targets. This could prompt Iran to weigh in on Assad's side, perhaps by allowing the PKK to operate freely from its territory, restricting access to Turkish trucks and interrupting the flow of natural gas to Turkey. Concurrently, Turkey might move against the Syrian Kurds by setting up a buffer zone along the border areas where they are concentrated. For all its bluster, Turkey has wisely steered away from military confrontation with Syria. It is not likely to act without U.S. backing, just like Israel, right? Israel is not doing anything until they get the okay from the United States. The United States is not some country. It's a corporation. The Pentagon is the military for the world. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like you're going to ask some democratic constitutional republic of free people. No, we're fucking slaves. And we're paying and funding this world army, this Luciferian organization known as the Pentagon. And, you know, who knows who they answer to. They probably do answer to somebody, but it ain't the American people. And it says it's too early to predict whether Turkey's embrace of the armed opposition will pay off, or if Ankara will have a decision say in Syria's future when Assad falls. A protracted civil sectarian war, like we were talking about in the first video, looks increasingly likely because that's what they want. If Turkey is to remain immune, it must desist from conflating its Kurdish problem with the war next door and take up the offer of dialogue. But you just had what? You just had Petraeus and the CIA and them over there talking with Turkey, and out comes the rhetoric. I did think it was interesting, though, this analysis or report was from the German Marshall Fund of the United States, and then this Syrian Kurds demand more rights is actually from a German source. And I think most of us can pretty much concede that Germany is pretty much a Zionist-controlled country. West must recess position on Syria, Russian president says. So a lot of talk coming out of Russia. That's for damn sure. It's kind of interesting how this is breaking down, too, because it's saying the most important thing is to end the violence, right? It's all about ending the violence. The same thing the West is saying. You have the West funding these mercenaries or terrorists, or they're actually all three of them, and Islamist extremists with weapons and stuff like that. Israel and the United States, and France, and all them have reported on that, so that's true. Calling for the end of violence while they're helping to create that violence on that side. Then you have, you know, the East, Russia, possibly even China. You don't hear much about China, though, supporting these arms and stuff like that for the Assad government, but at the same time calling for the end of violence. But what the difference is that Russia is saying that they want Syria to be able to handle their issues internally and not be decided from outside the country, whereas the Western Zionist-backed regimes are saying what? We're going to tell you what to do. You're not going to draft your own reform. We're going to do it for you. In fact, we're just going to go in there and we're going to take your leader out and then we're going to draft it for you. But like I said, it's business, right? So what it comes down to is Syria is good with Russia as far as contracts and arms defense contracts, and the West wants to get in there and do that. So then we have this from September 4th, Qatar's Al Jazeera website hacked by Syria's Assad loyalists. The website of Qatar-based satellite news network Al Jazeera was apparently hacked on Tuesday by Syrian government loyalists for what they said was a television channel support for armed terrorist groups and spreading lies and fabricated news. So they're right? And Qatar is a Zionist-backed country, proxy state. So Facebook, something interesting if you've been looking for RT articles, they're not there. They're facing, quote, major technical difficulties. So site may not be available for some users, with a blackout lasting for up to several days. So it has for a couple days. So being that Al Jazeera was just, basically hacked net and it's a Zionist-backed thing, I'd have a feeling that Zionists are really good at doing this. Israel, I'm talking about, with Iran and that. They're carrying out assassinations of Iranian scientists. They've also created that, Stuxnet virus, and that was proved to come straight from them. So, like I said, don't let Israel fool you. They're behind a lot of stuff, sneaky little stuff. But you tend to always hear the United States. After Dempsey warning Israel may curb war threat, President Obama explicit warning that he will not accept a unilateral Israeli attack against Iran may force the prime minister to step back from his ostensible threat of war. So I think this is I think this is just propaganda. I don't think they can do anything until Syria goes down. So in order to maintain that kind of, oh, we're tough, right? They can't just say, well, what about all that shit you've been talking, Netanyahu, right? So it's like, well, he can't just say, well, we got to wait for Syria to go down first before we do anything, right? So it says, scared of leaks, Netanyahu Mulls forcing cabinet to take polygraphs, basically to be growing even more insular and distrustful of outsiders, even turning on his own security cabinet today, announcing cancellation of meetings because he doesn't trust them. Yeah, I don't know about that. I think they're just buying time here. U.S. downgrades anti-missile drills with Israel, sends CIA's Petraeus instead to ease tensions. I couldn't find this because it was on RT, but only days after the United States announced that it will be scaling down its role in a joint missile exercise with Israel scheduled for later this year, the U.S. has sent CIA Director David Petraeus overseas to handle it. So handle it, and that was September 4th. So he's a man on a mission, isn't he? Massed U.S., U.K., French navies for drills simulating breach of blocked Hormuz from September 5th. Third U.S. aircraft carrier, U.S. Stennis, is moving into place off the Iranian Gulf Coast to lead a 12-day naval exercise of 25 nations from September 16th to the 27th, probably to try to provocateur something. And as we keep moving here, Iran will hold large-scale air defense drill, commander says. This is from September 2nd. They're going to hold a large-scale military drill involving air defense system next month, Iranian commander was quoted saying on Saturday. So I don't know if these guys are all just the same part of the club, right? He just shakes his fist and Hezbollah, so that Israel can say, well, you did it. Now, Turkey, you better go in there. You better go in there and into Syria and that. So that's why I'm covering this, just to put out there, because it's probably just a big show, but hey, at least you got the inside scoop of this show, right? You got front row seats. So here, this Hezbollah leader hints that Hezbollah could target Israel's nuclear reactors, even with its conventional arsenal. They're talking about U.S. bases in the Middle East in response to any Israeli strike on its nuclear facilities, the leader of the Lebanon's Iranian-backed militant group, Hezbollah, said on Monday. Yeah, and Lebanon's on that list of countries to go down besides Syria. Libya was on there, Iraq was on there, and Iran is supposedly on there too. So, when Syria goes, Lebanon will go. In conflict with West, Iran stirs war memories at home. So they're talking about Iranian leaders hoping to lift morale at a time of rising food prices, food shortages, and threat of attack from Israel are drawing on memories of another era when people united against a common foe, the Western-backed person, Saddam Hussein, right? So they do this to everybody. You just saw the news about the CIA conducting torturing for Libya. So you can't dance with the devil, man. They'll just leave you hanging. And literally, they hung Saddam Hussein when they were done using him. And if you didn't know, it was the West that actually supplied Iraq with all its chemical weapons, and they sat there and they bombed the hell out of Iran. But Iran's supreme leader says Saddam's war against us was not a war between us and one government. It was an international war against us. These challenges are not new for the Islamic Republic. Alright, so we're talking about U.S. bases getting struck by Hezbollah. U.S. to Iran. In case of Israeli strike, don't fire on our bases. Washington tells Tehran that it will not join in an Israeli attack on its nuclear program. But I think this is the biggest, illusion or smoke and mirrors tactic, which is the United States, has no intention of joining in a preemptive Israeli strike. Now, I think the United States, like I said, is actually the meat. It is the money, the funding, the everything for Israel. But they have to do this as like a legal precedence or something, so that when Israel does decide to attack or whatever happens with a false flag or something like that, Hezbollah, chemical weapons or whatever, that they could say, we're going to go ahead and attack them, and then U.S. will be like, well, I guess we'll have to just go in there and support them. We weren't really for them. We weren't backing this, but hey, we got to do it, right? We're talking about sanctions. Iran on the verge of severe financial crisis as an intelligence report. So economic crisis, right? So Ahmadinejad concedes Iran sanctions hurting economy. He's been forced to concede the international sanctions against the Iran's energy sector are hurting the economy. And this is according to them. Tehran's chief prosecutor this week instructed television stations to avoid bleak reporting over the impact of sanctions and instead provide an image of hope and joy. Iran's sanctions will hit its economy but not kill it. Well, what about the people? Will they kill the people? I don't know, because they are kind of getting hungry, right? I've covered this before. Well, if you look at this, Israeli officials say starve the Iranians to stop nukes. So, again, you can see who's really pulling the strings here. And just like Israel participating in Syria, as far as Mossad and that, according to Syrian officials, look at this. Another nugget of news that didn't make the front headlines. Afghanistan and Iran sign a deal giving landlocked Afghanistan access to major seaports. Tehran and Tokyo ties should go beyond diplomatic, says Japanese ambassador. So what we're seeing now is post-tsunami Western probably provoked earthquake. We have what? Japan paying very big for going with the U.S. and Zionist business. The culture was destroyed in Japan, and instead they put American culture to replace it. And Japan, North Korea hold talks for the first time in 4 years. So they're looking for allies. Why? Because just like all the other countries like Turkey and them, and Libya and Iraq, they're getting left to hang afterward. Just use them as puppets and destroy the witnesses. Afghanistan and Iran signed deal giving landlocked Afghanistan access to major seaport. So is this part of the plan? Or are they actually breaking away? Afghanistan, that is. NATO is expressing deep concern to Karzai over the surge of assaults by Afghan troops on their foreign allies. Well, what do I think? I think this is just them doing this, creating this need for them to be there, i.e. CIA, feeding them information of where these guys are going to be, and, because they don't want them to be there, and they go ahead and shoot the U.S. troops. But a U.S. military officer says it's cultural insensitivity that contributed to the insider Afghan attack. Pakistan, Afghanistan, and U.S. are discussing a safe passage for Taliban leaders to join peace talks, which is why, what? Afghanistan's past is now being rewritten, rewrite their history to appease the Western-created Taliban. And the third NATO helicopter crash in 10 days in Afghanistan. Is this the Russians doing this? A little payback? U.S. concerned about Russian helicopters. Syrian military helicopter shot down August 27th, another helicopter on September 5th, and a fighter jet on the same day. The Pentagon okays selling U.S. drones to foreign countries. These are global corporations. No fucking surprise why they're looking abroad as defense spending shrinks, and why there's fake Chinese parts in U.S. military gear. And who pays for it? You. Thank you.